Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening to everyone. Today my group will explain about Al-Ghazali, Cosmology and the Kalam and the Cosmological argument. Okay, first, my name is Shazan Nur Anis binti Muhammad Azharan. I will explain about the introduction of cosmology and the biography of Imam Al-Ghazali. Okay, what is cosmology? Cosmology is the original word from Greek, which is cosmos, and meaning that universe. Cosmology covering any scientific, religious, or philosophical contemplation of the cosmos and its nature or reasons for existing. According to the NASA, cosmology is the scientific study of the large-scale properties of the universe as a whole. Cosmology also a branch of astronomy that involves the evolution of the universe from the Big Bang into the future. Okay, next, religious studies point of view about cosmology is theistically created that ruled by supernatural force. And scientific point of view, cosmology developing the most complete and economical as possible understanding of the universe that is consistent with observation illustrated by natural forces. Okay, modern cosmology is too close with philosophy and science, and why? It is because philosophy is to ask the fundamental question about universe, while science is to answer to look for the answer in the form of empirical understanding and also rational opinions. There were types of cosmology. First, Neolithic cosmology, Mesopotamia, Greek and anthropocentric universe. First, Neolithic cosmology is very early cosmology from the time of Neolithic, around 20,000 to 100,000 years ago. Cosmological things in this type is like weather, earthquakes, sharp changes environment that appear in supernatural and called as magic cosmology. Next is Mesopotamia cosmology or Egyptian cosmology. Was existed in 5,000 years ago. Humankind began to develop the Great Bronze Age culture, and the development of the ancient cosmology was followed in a practical line as early human impression of the night sky formulated into various myths, which then later became the Egyptian religion. And then Greek cosmology. Greek cosmology was influenced by modern thought around 600 BC. Greek philosophy was introduced intellectual approach based on reason, evidence, debate, scientific and mathematics theory to understand what is universe. And lastly, anthropocentric universe by Plato and Pythagoras, developed by Greek around 4th century BC. This theory was proposed by Hippocrates, which is there were 4 elements of universe: air, water, earth, and fire. Okay, next, biography of Imam Al-Ghazali, personal and intellectual. Imam Al-Ghazali, or his real name, is Abu Hamid Muhammad bin Muhammad Al-Tusi Al-Ghazali. He was born in 1058 at Tus in Iran. Imam Al-Ghazali began in his education studying Arabic, Persian, Quran and the principle of religion around age 7. And then Imam Al-Ghazali got a title as Al-Hujjah al-Islam, Zainuddin and Al-Mujaddid as his effort to protect our religion. And then the works that produced by Imam Al-Ghazali such as Al-Munkit min Ad-Dalal, Ihya Ulumuddin, Tahafur Al-Falasifa and many more. Okay, next is intellectual. Imam Al-Ghazali was began when he studied with his teacher, which is Imam Al-Juwayni, about fiqh and kalam. Al-Ghazali also accepted syllogistic argument as the foundation of mutakallimin. What is syllogistic means? Syllogistic is a kind of logical argument that applies deductive reasoning to arrive at a conclusion with two or more propositions that asserted or assumed to be true. Okay. And then Al-Ghazali disagreement in philosophy to the philosophers about the concept of metaphysics. In his book Tahafur Al-Falasifa, it discussed about the internal contradictions in the thinking of philosophers from religious standpoint, such as the existence of God. Okay, Al-Ghazali capability in philosophy makes him want to explore more about other knowledge in Western, and he also built tasawwuf to achieve what he want to looking for. As philosophy didn't bring him the curiosity will of religion. That's all from me, and I will proceed to my friend.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Putri Nur Aisyah binti Megat Amiruddin. Next, I will proceed about the meaning of cosmology. Firstly, traditional meaning. In the traditional sense, cosmology refers to the study of the structure of the universe. In the 17th century, it was known as cosmography, a term which stresses the mapping of the universe and which could also refer to what we would consider as geography today. Although the term is rarely used today, much of modern cosmology is in the older cosmographical tradition, except that the universe under study is no longer assumed to be static. According to Gail Christiansen, he described Edwin Hubble as a mariner of the Nebula and was as much a cosmographer as a cosmologist. And in the 20th century, the dynamic conception of the universe is largely a product. And yet, scientists of the past often deal with cosmogony, which literally means the study of how the universe came to be what it is. Next, the cosmology in the modern meaning. While the name cosmology does not in itself include a temporal dimension, cosmogony does. However, from a modern perspective, older terms such as cosmography and cosmogony can be misleading as they often refer to the description and formation of the planetary system and not to the universe as a whole. And in 1913, Henry Poincare's important work entitled Hypothesis Cosmogonics, which is cosmogony hypothesis, was primarily concerned with theories of the formation of the planetary system and had almost nothing to say about cosmology in the modern meaning of term. And here I want to add the definition of cosmology according to the Merriam-Webster. First one is a branch of metaphysics that deals with the nature of the universe, a theory or doctrine describing the natural order of the universe. Secondly, cosmology is a branch of astronomy that deals with the origin, structure, and space-time relationships of the universe. Next, according to the UK dictionary, cosmology is the science of the origin and development of the universe. Modern cosmology is dominated by the Big Bang theory, which brings together observational astronomy and particle physics. Next, according to the Encyclopedia of Philosophy, it states that the cosmological argument is less a particular argument than an argument type. It uses a general pattern of argumentation that makes an interfere from particular facts about the universe to the existence of a unique being, generally identified with or referred to as God. Among these initial facts are that particular beings or events in the universe are causally dependent or contingent, that the universe is a contingent in that it could have been other than it is, that the big conjunctive contingent fact possibly has an explanation, or that the universe came into being. From these philosophers infer deductively, inductively, or abductively by interfere to the best explanation than a first or sustaining cause, a necessary being. An unmoved mover or a personal being, which is God, exists that causes or sustains the universe. The cosmological argument is part of classical natural theology, whose goal is to provide evidence for the claim that God exists. Okay, next I will proceed to the history of Kalam cosmological argument. Firstly, the early history of Kalam cosmological argument. According to John Philosophus, which is Christian theologian, argued against the Aristotelian conception of an eternal world on the eternity of the world against Proclus, in which he gave arguments for creation ex nihilo. Creation ex nihilo means creation from nothing. So, for example, the eternity of the universe would imply an infinite number of past motions that is continually being increased. So later, Jewish philosopher Sadia adopted Zeno's paradoxes to support creation ex nihilo. Then, from these arguments were revived by medieval Muslim theologians who were eager to prove the Quranic doctrine of creation, and it is from them we get the term of kalam. While falsafa is a word for the invasion of Greek philosophy into Islam, and kalam refers to a more orthodox Muslim practice of natural theology or Muslim scholasticism. While the modern history of the Kalam cosmological argument, it states that in the 18th century, the Kalam cosmological argument made two brutal criticisms from Hume and Kant. Hume attacked the common notion of causation and the causal principle that every contingent thing has a cause. So next, Kant's complaint was that the Kalam cosmological argument argues for a necessary being, a being whose non-existence is inconceivable, but the only being that could meet the criteria might be the maximally excellent being of the ontological argument. So the Kalam cosmological argument was revived by Stuart in the Resurrection of Theism, a book that, along with Plentygius, which is God and Other Minds, and it was launched a Christian revival in analytic philosophy. And finally, the definitive defense of the Kalam cosmological argument came from one of Hackett's students, which is William Lane, who published the Kalam cosmological argument in 1979, which is also when it came to be identified as the Kalam cosmological argument.
Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Farah. So from my part, I will explain about a little bit about what is Kalam cosmological argument, and also a little bit about what are the Al-Ghazali's cosmological argument. Okay, so first, what is Kalam cosmological argument? Kalam cosmological argument is a variation of the cosmological argument that argues for the existence of first cause for the universe and the existence of God. Like stated by William Lane Craig, who is one of the most famous contemporary defender of Kalam, he says that although many in the medieval Arab-speaking world contributed to the Kalam cosmological argument, but for him, the only three thinkers were the most important defenders are first Al-Kindi, second the Jewish philosopher which named Saadia Gaon, and the third is Al-Ghazali. Of those, of course, I as a presenter of this topic will only tell you about the Al-Ghazali cosmological argument, because in this video we only focus on him. Okay, next let's look at Al-Ghazali's cosmological argument. Before we know about the Al-Ghazali's cosmological arguments, I think it is also important for us to know the reason why Al-Ghazali is also involved with this kind of argument. Basically, related with the issues of cosmology, actually during his time, he was very concerned about some of the Muslim philosophers that were being so much influenced by Greek philosophy
to deny the beginning of the universe. Among the philosophers that were concerned by Al-Ghazali, including Ibn Sina and Al-Farabi. Yeah, because as we know, Ibn Sina and Al-Farabi are so much influenced by Aristotle. So because of that, they believe the universe flows necessarily out of God, and therefore it is beginningless. After Al-Ghazali truly studying the teaching of these philosophers, he wrote a book which called Tahafut al-Falasifa, or in English we call the Incoherence of the Philosopher. In this book, one of his arguments relating about the cosmology is it is impossible to say that this universe is uncreated eternally and do not have a beginning. This is because for Imam Ghazali, he believed that every being which begins has a cause for its beginning. And as we know, a universe is a being which begins. Therefore, he made his conclusion this universe has to possess a cause for its beginning. Besides, he also says that if nothing begins to exist without a cause, therefore there must only be a transcendent creator of the universe, which is God. To make us more understand, I think I should share with you all the way of William Lane Craig summarized for this Al-Ghazali's arguments. He put the Al-Ghazali's argument in its simplest form into the following syllogism. First, everything that begins to exist has a cause of its existence. Second, the universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause of its existence. So, to know more about this, I think my friend will explain more detail about it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and let's move on to the next point, which I will explain about the 3 points, which are whatever begin to exist has a cause, the universe begin to exist, and therefore universe has a cause. So first of all, whatever begin to exist has a whatever begin to exist has a cause. The Kalam cosmological argument has received considerable attention from William Lane Craig, and for the first premise, whatever begin to exist has a cause. I explained that something cannot come from nothing and cannot simply pop into being uncaused. So the principle is causality, that effects are always produced by causes. And if something begin to exist, it must have a cause. Al-Ghazali have pointed out that if the universe is infinite in the past, which is never begin to exist, then there must be been something which is unlimited numbers of past event or history and prior to the present. But Al-Ghazali argued that an actual infinite number of things entails logical absurdity, and there is a difference between an actual infinite and of number of things and potential infinite. Let's move on to the second point, which is the universe began to exist. So, regarding the universe has its own past, scientific has discovered in 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity, which this allowed us to talk about the past history of the universe. So, when the universe has a past and history, this means the universe has a beginning. So, the cosmologists Alvin Bott, Alan Guth, and Alexander Drinkin prove that any universe which has on average been expanding throughout its history cannot be eternal in the past and must have an absolute beginning. The conclusion is, therefore, the universe has a cause. But the universe can cause itself. The cause must be beyond the space-time universe, and it must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful. So, which is God. Move on to the contribution of Al-Ghazali on cosmology. First one, Al-Ghazali defended Islam from against such philosophers who sought to demonstrate certain speculative views contrary to accepted Islamic teaching. Second one, Al-Ghazali cosmology introduced us to a wider range of philosophical and theological subjects. Third one, Al-Ghazali criticism on Aristotelian physics and Aristotelian cosmology played an important role in the development of an independent astronomy over the next several centuries. One is Al-Ghazali influence on cosmology. In cosmology, the first one, Western scholars have been so attracted on his account of his spiritual development that they have paid him far more attention than they have other equally important Muslim thinkers. Second one, his Ash'ari-based views influenced the theologian Fakhruddin al-Razi to reject the Aristotelian notion of the earth's centrality within the universe and instead proposed the notion of a multiverse consisting of the countless worlds and universe. Third one, Al-Razi also criticized the Aristotelian notion of solid celestial spheres and suggested this may be merely the abstract orbit traced by the star. And the last one, Al-Ghazali influence has been compared to the works of Thomas Aquinas in Christian theology, but the two differed greatly in methods and belief. Whereas Ghazali rejected Greek metaphysical philosophers such as Aristotle and saw it fit to refute their metaphysical teachings on the basis of their irrationality. And Aquinas embraced non-Christian philosophy and incorporated ancient Greek, Latin, and Islamic thought into his own philosophical writing.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Yasmin Suraya Ramzi, and I would like to continue our presentation with the next part, which is the relevance of Al-Ghazali, Kalam Cosmological Argument during present time, which is based on William Lane Craig scientific confirmation or evidence. So, according to William Lane Craig, he summarized that the scientific evidence which shows the beginning of the universe comes from the expansion of the universe, and the second one is the thermodynamic properties of the universe. So I would like to start with the first one, which is the expansion of the universe. So here, as you can see from the slide, Albert Einstein's assumption when he first began to apply his new theory of gravity called the general theory of relativity to the universe in 1970. So his equations, which is Einstein, described a universe which was either blowing up like a balloon or collapsing in upon itself. So during the 1920s, Alexander Friedmann, which is a Russian mathematician, and George Lemaitre, a Belgian astronomer, decided to take Einstein equations, and they came up with a model of an expanding universe. So in 1929, Edwin Hubble, which is an American astronomer, he actually made a discovery which verified Friedmann and Lemaitre's theory. So here, he actually explained about the theory, the Friedmann-Lemaitre model, which were known as the Big Bang theory. And the second scientific argument of the beginning of the universe is from the second law of thermodynamics, which is the thermodynamic properties of the universe. So just briefly, according to the second law, unless energy is being fed into a system, the system will become increasingly disorderly. So there is quite a scientific explanation about these thermodynamic properties of the universe, but in short, In 2013, the cosmologist Aaron Wall of the University of California was able to formulate a new singularity theorem which seems to close the door on that possibility. Aaron Wall shows that given the validity of the generalized second law of thermodynamics in quantum gravity, the universe must have begun to exist unless one postulates or presumes a reversal of the arrow of time, which is time goes backward at some point in the past, which he rightly observed involves a thermodynamic beginning in time, which would seem to raise the same sort of philosophical questions that any other sort of the beginning in time would. So we can see the relevance of this scientific evidence with the Ghazali Kalam Cosmological argument. This is because we can see based on this explanation, Dr. William Lane Craig actually agree and support Al-Ghazali views upon the universe, the beginning of the universe. So now we can proceed to the last part, which is the conclusion. And we can conclude that Al-Ghazali cosmological argument does give us a powerful justification for believing in the existence of God. So with the help of both philosophical and scientific evidence, it leads us to have a strong argument for believing that the universe began to exist, and also and it therefore follows that the universe has a cause of its beginning. So here the Quran have already goes further and describes the entire cycle of the beginning, the end, and the return again to a similar beginning. So the first step of creation, as related in the Quran, accurately describes the event of the Big Bang, based on the below ayah, the verses below. So I think that is all from us about Al-Ghazali cosmological argument. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.